In this Cricut tutorial for beginners, I am showing you how you can quickly and easily cut out wood with your Cricut Maker, and in the process, we're also making a super cute Cricut Christmas door hanger. So let's get crafty. Hey, I'm Michael from the Mr. Crafty Pants YouTube channel, where I show you Cricut tips, tricks, and tutorials on how to best use your Cricut cutting machine. And today I am so excited because I am partnering up yet again with Design Bundles to bring you all another Cricut tutorial that is step-by-step and super easy to understand for Cricut beginners. But there's also some things wrapped up in here that would be great for someone who's been doing this whole Cricut thing for years now. And today, y'all, I'm doing a project that I have been requested to do so many times, and that's all about how to cut out wood with your Cricut Maker. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I have been eyeing a Glowforge for so freaking long now. Those things are amazing, and I'm just like completely amazed at what all they can do. Like, I love them. But let's be real, they are so pricey. So what I'm doing today is a Christmas door hanger that looks like something a Glowforge could make, but instead we're doing it with a Cricut Maker. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying a Cricut Maker and a Glowforge is comparable, because let's be real, a Glowforge is just way more powerful. But if you're on a budget like I am, then we're gonna make do. And so to make this Cricut Christmas magic happen, we're obviously gonna need a Cricut Maker, right? Like I'm using right here. And we're also gonna need some wood. Now I am using basswood, and this is 1/16 of an inch thick. And this is also 6 inches by 12 inches. I did get this on Amazon. It is not Cricut brand, but I will have everything, and I do mean everything that I use. It'll be listed and linked for you all down in that description box below. As for the actual door hanger aspect of this, we're going to be using a wood round. Now, you can get wood rounds so many different places. So many people get them at Home Depot or Lowe's. I actually got this from Woodpecker's Crafts. Again, the link will be down in that description box below, but I'll be using a 14-inch wood round for this. You are also going to need a purple Cricut Strong Grip cutting mat, as well as some masking tape or some painter's tape to hold our wood down to the mat. And we're also going to need a Cricut knife blade tool for the Cricut Maker. This little guy right here. And in addition to any bows or paint or any kind of decor that you're wanting to add to your door hanger, if you're wanting to follow along with what I'm doing today, you'll also need a certain style of font. So I'm going to head over to fontbundles.net and show you all the one that I'm using today. Now, just being completely honest with you guys, I have no idea how to pronounce this font name, but I love it nonetheless. And I have been eyeing this font for some time now. This font is just absolutely gorgeous. You actually see this style of font nowadays in a lot of the modern farmhouse kind of decor. And I just cannot wait to actually make a design out of this. Like, I'm just so excited. Now, as you can see here, it is normally $18 for that single font. However, I have recently found this in a newer font bundle, and that is this brilliant font bundle right here, where you get not only this font, but a bunch of other fonts for $24, which is just a remarkable deal. If you bought each of these fonts individually, it'd be over $400, but you get it for $24. Y'all, like, that's an insanely good deal. So let's take a look at that real quick. And these are all the fonts that you get right here. One of the things that I absolutely love that fontbundles.net actually provides is this little feature right here, where you can actually try out the fonts in the bundle. So if you have a word in mind that you're wanting to see how these fonts look, just type it in, just like this right here. So I'm gonna type in here, joy, which is the word that I'm using for today's project. And just like this, you can see how all of this looks. So here is the font right here that I'm actually using for today's project. And I just love this. I think it looks just so freaking cute, but there's so many other fonts that you could pick from as well. I just love this. So let's jump over to Cricut Design Space and we'll get started with our project. All right, so here we are on the Cricut Design Space canvas, and the first thing that I'm wanting to do with all this is to actually create a template to mimic our 14-inch wood round. So to do that, I'm gonna come over here to the left-hand side of the page. I'm gonna click on Shapes, and I'm gonna open up a circle. Now, the color of this template does not amount to a hill of beans, but if you wanna actually get just a more clear or better idea of what your project is gonna end up looking like, you can come up here towards the top left-hand corner, click on this little color swatch like so, and you can change this to brown. And now I'm going to resize this to be the same dimensions as our wood round. So I'm going to come up here towards the top of the canvas, right up here where it says size. I'm going to leave that little padlock locked because that padlock locks in the dimensions of this image. So I can change the width and it would automatically change the height to be in the same proportion as the width. So for this, I can type in here 14 for 14 inches, and it automatically changes the height to be 14 inches as well. There we go. All right, so this template's just a little bit big for our canvas. So let me come down here towards the bottom left-hand corner and zoom out. And if you want to get an even better idea of what this is going to look like once it's all said and done, once you have it completely decorated the way that you want it to be, in my case anyway, I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side of the page, click on Shapes. I'm going to open up a square like so. And I'm going to change the color of the square to red. I'm going to click this little resize handle right here on the square. Just drag this outwards. And then just try to cover up the lower portion of the circle with this square. Maybe something like that. All right, so now I'm going to click and drag over the circle and over the square, and then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Slice. I'm going to delete out the remnants of this like so. And this is kind of mimicking the direction I'm going for today's design. So I'm actually going to click and drag over both of these elements, and then I'm going to come up here towards the top right-hand corner and select Group. So now as far as our design goes, our actual design that says Joy, I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side of the page, and I'm going to click on Text, and I'm going to type in here Joy, just like so. Now Joy is not in the font that I'm actually wanting to use. So to change that font, I'm going to come up here towards the top left-hand corner and click on this little font drop-down menu like so. And then I'm going to come over here and type in the name of that font. And here we go. So here are all the different types of fonts in that font family. And here's the thing, whenever you're cutting out wood with your Cricut Maker, you don't want any small or intricate details or designs because that would end up ripping your wood to shreds. That's just no bueno, we do not want that. So I'm gonna come down here and select the thickest of these fonts like so. Now I gotta say, this is one of my biggest pet peeves whenever it comes to Cricut Design Space, and that is how it lays out the letters, like all that letter spacing in between each of these letters. Now you could come up here towards the top of the canvas and then just reduce that letter spacing like so, but that is just so hit or miss in my book. Sometimes it works out great, most of the time it doesn't in my own personal experience. So instead, I'm actually going to come up here towards the top right-hand corner and select Ungroup. And by selecting Ungroup, you're basically putting each of those letters onto its own layer, just like so. So we could really resize each individual letter if we wanted to. We could, rotate each letter. We could really do whatever we wanted to with this. Now I am going to kind of turn this J just a hair, and I'm going to click this little resize handle, make this a little bit bigger, just like so. I want to do the same thing with this O. I want to turn it, make this a little bit bigger, and really just kind of play around with it until you're getting the look that you're wanting to go for. All right, so I'm really liking how that's looking right there. Now, since there are parts of this font that are overlapping, I'm going to click and drag over all of that, and then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and weld it together. And weld basically turns those three layers, those three different letters, into one solid image of sorts. So what I'm going to do now is click on this, and then click this little resize handle, just drag this outwards like so, and then just resize it to fit appropriately onto our door hanger. All right, so I think that sizing is actually pretty good, but there are some elements to this font that I wasn't necessarily planning on. So it looks like, if we zoom in on here, yeah, it looks like this font has like more of like a weathered style of look to it. So like see all these little bits and bobs, like these little holes basically in the font itself. Now I'm gonna show you real quick how to go about actually fixing that. I'm gonna drag this over here to the side, and I'm gonna come over here to the left-hand side of the page and click on Shapes. And I'm gonna open up a square. There we go. And I'm going to just grab this little resize handle on this square, drag this outwards. And I'm going to right click the square and then select send to back, just like so. All right, so since we did weld our letters together, it did make it one solid image. So we can then go ahead and slice that image or slice that font or word, so to speak, out of that square. So I'm gonna click and drag over that square and over our words. And if the slice option does not come up for you, it either means one of two things. It either means that you have one layer selected, or it means that you have 3 or more layers selected. Slice will only work if you have 2 layers selected and only 2 layers. So I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom right hand corner, select slice, and let's go ahead and move our word here out of the way. And here is basically the remnants of where we sliced that out. So I'm gonna go ahead and click this little red X right here. This square right here, as you can see, there's all little bits and bobs inside of these letters. We want to keep those, but we want to get rid of everything else on this square essentially. So to do that, I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom right hand corner and select contour. And the hide contour box, if you've never used it, is just a really great way to even take your customization of your designs, even just like a step further inside of Cricut Design Space, which I love. Now it's super easy to use. All you have to do is just go through here and select the elements that you want to remove from the image. And then if you want to actually bring it back into the image, you just have to select it again. So for the square, I'm going to select that. And as you can see, it became like this lighter gray right here inside of this hide contour box, which means it's been removed from our image, so to speak. I'm not going to select this J, the O and the Y, the little inner portion of that J, and this little loop right here. And if we now click outside of this box, as you can see here, it's only the little bits and bobs that are left. So I am now going to zoom in by coming down here towards the bottom left-hand corner. And basically what we're trying to do now is fit all these little bits and bobs into the holes that they belong, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to drag this over here and then just try to line all of this up, just like so. All right, so I'm going to come down here towards the bottom left-hand corner, zoom back in, and I'm really wanting to make sure that I have everything covered, everything filled. So I'll be honest, that looks like I have everything filled. Let's go ahead and zoom back out a little bit. And let's click and drag over both of those elements, all the bits and bobs and the actual word itself. And then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select weld. All right, so as you can see here, although it looked like we had everything filled, we obviously did not. So I'm actually going to right click our word here. I'm going to select duplicate, and I'm going to basically just overlay these two, but just have them just a hair offset. And just so you can see what I'm doing just a little bit better, I'm going to change the color of one of these by coming up here towards the top left-hand corner. And let's just change one of these to red. Why not? So basically you want these to be pretty close to being completely center with one another, but just a little bit offset. So we're making sure that we're going to cover all those holes when we weld these again. All right, so I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and click and drag over both of these and then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select weld. There we go. So it looks like there's one little speck left behind. Let's just go ahead and duplicate this again. We'll do the same thing, like having it all offset. Click and drag over both, and then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select weld. That's looking good. I'm really liking that, and it actually makes our font a little bit thicker, which will be even better whenever it comes to actually cutting this out on wood. So it all worked out. I'm now going to come up here towards the top left-hand corner, click this little color swatch, and I'm going to change this to white, and then I'm going to click and drag this right over top of our wood round. So this is basically giving you somewhat of an idea what this is all going to look like once it's all said and done, which I love. Personally, I love. However, you can obviously do this to your own taste, to your own liking, and just design to your own heart's content. I'm now going to click and drag over our template here. And I'm now going to come up here towards the top left-hand corner and just delete that out since we don't need that anymore. And I'm now going to come up here towards the top right-hand corner and select Make It. All right, so this is our mat preview screen, which essentially is showing us where on our mat our design is going to cut out. Now we can obviously change this up, and we can change that up by actually selecting our image and then clicking this little rotation handle right up here, rotating it like so. And here we go. So the wood that we're using, this basswood, is 12 inches wide. Now, whenever you're cutting out wood with your Cricut Maker, the wood should not cover more than 11 inches horizontally. Now this one obviously is covering 12 inches. So instead of actually having this run horizontally, we're actually going to have this run vertically instead. It's also really important to note that whenever you're cutting out your design, you really want to make sure that a lot of the design is cutting across the grain and not so much with the grain. Because if you're cutting with the grain, you really do run the risk of actually splitting the wood in some places. So since a lot of our design is kind of going up and down, now obviously there are some that's going off to the side, but having it run across the grain is going to be most ideal. All right, so I am going to center this right here, smack dab in the center of this mat. So it's going to be right here between the 3 and the 9. And I'm also going to move it down and basically just using these squares on the mat, because each square on here represents 1 inch. I'm just kind of using that as a guide so I can get this as center as possible. All right, so I think that right there should do the trick for us. So we can now basically apply our wood smack dab in the middle of our cutting mat, and we know that we'll be okay. So I'm now going to come down here towards the bottom right hand corner and select continue. I'm going to turn on my maker. And as far as our base material cut settings, I am going to come over here and select browse all materials, and I'm going to search for basswood. All right, so this part is really good to know. So the Cricut Maker can cut this out at 1/16 of an inch, otherwise known as 1.6 millimeters, or at 0.8 millimeters. Now we are doing the 1/16 of an inch, so I'm gonna select that option right there, and then come down here and select done. And basically this is saying right here to move the star wheels all the way to the right, make sure that the material is no wider than 11 inches, which we did already cover. And it's also asking us to make sure that the wood is adhered down to our cutting mat with painter's tape or masking tape on all 4 sides, which we're going to do with no problem whatsoever. Now, as far as the star wheels goes, if you're not too familiar with that, no worries. I'm going to show you exactly what that means and how to do that. All right, so these little guys right here, these are what's called the star wheels. So what we're needing to do is basically just slide these all the way down to the right of the Cricut Maker. Now, another thing that we can do while we're here is go ahead and switch out our blades. So right now I have the fine point blade in here. So I'm gonna just unlock this little latch right here and remove that. And in its place, I'm just gonna put in here the Cricut knife blade. And then just lock that back into place. All right, so again, with our basswood right here, we're gonna be applying this smack dab in the middle of the cutting mat. And remember how on the mat preview screen, we applied it right between 3 and 9? I'm gonna do the same exact thing right here. You really wanna make sure that you push this down and make sure it's firmly adhered to that strong grip cutting mat. And then I'm just gonna grab my masking tape right here. And whenever I'm applying this, I'm gonna try to barely just cover the edges of this. We don't want it overlapping on too much of the wood. So basically just something real quick on the edges should do the job just fine. All right, so we have all that taped down into our cutting mat. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get started cutting. And while all that's cutting out, I'm gonna go ahead and stain and paint my wood round and get it ready. Now to stain our wood round, I'm gonna be using this Minwax wood finishing cloth like this right here. These things are amazing, they dry quickly, and within an hour, you have a completely dry surface in most cases. Now, whenever I am staining or applying the stain to our wood round, I'm going to focus primarily on the top portion of the wood round itself, because once that stain is completely dry, I want to tape off the lower portion of this wood round and paint it with a matte red acrylic paint. All right, so our Cricut Maker is done cutting out our wood essentially, but it is asking us, as you can see here on the screen, to check and make sure that it actually has completely cut through the material, but without removing the mat. So this is the way I like to do it right here. I like to grab a little X-Acto knife like this right here, and then just kind of very gently start trying to pry up and see if you can get any of these little pieces to lift up. All right, so it does seem to be mostly cut out, but it's not fully cut out in all the different areas. So what I'm actually gonna do is select Cut More by just simply pressing this Cricut logo button right here. All right, so now I'm just gonna repeat the same process and check to make sure that it's all cut out. All right, so I'm pretty sure it's all the way cut out. So I'm gonna go ahead and unload it and we'll try it out and see. Alright, so basically what I'm going to be doing is just very, very gently bending back on this mat to try to get these little pieces to pop out. Alright, so there's one little piece over here that's stuck, so I am going to go ahead and just grab my X-Acto knife and try to make that cut manually. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and spray paint our joy, and then we can work on applying it to our wood round. Alright, so as far as applying our joy to the actual wood round, I'm just going to squeeze out some of this multi-purpose glue right here into a little cup, and then basically just brush it onto the back of the joy. Alright, so now I'm just going to finish decorating the door hanger and we'll be done. Now, if you all liked today's episode, or if you learned something new, it would honestly mean the world to us and help us out so much here on YouTube if you took 2 seconds to stamp that like button, as well as drop a comment down in the comment section below. Also, while you're at it, if you are new around here to the Design Bundles YouTube channel, well, you may want to consider stamping that subscribe button and then ringing that little bell for all the notifications so that you never have to miss a single crafty minute that's coming out of this channel. Thank you all so much for watching today's episode. It truly means the world to us. And until next time, stay crafty.